Alright, welcome back to another Path of Diablo, sorry, Project Diablo 2
Good
video.
afternoon.
I don't know why I keep saying that, but anyways, this one is the physical Paladin. So I spent a lot of time trying to get this to work, to get the highest damage possible for physical. It's always been my favorite build for Paladins, but it doesn't seem to get the support that it used to get in this mod. But it looks like for Season 4, which I didn't really play, but going into Season 5, it appears that, you know, they have given some love to the physical builds. One major change I didn't know about is Crushing Blow and Deadly Strike. They both cap at 75% now. So um, it means that you don't really need to like get to the cap or really push it that high because they've disincentivized you from doing so. And as well, they've also made it so that crits don't crit for 2.0 now, like double damage. They crit for 1.5. So crits are way less important. And also, crushing blows doesn't apply to mobs below 65%. Um, I mean, sorry, let me rephrase that. It applies to these mobs, like regular ass mobs that don't do anything. But super uniques, champions, and bosses, they uh, they don't they don't have any, like once they're below 65% health, crushing blows just stops doing anything. So it's really not it's not good. Excuse me. So um, that being said, the new build here. Hold on a sec. Sorry about that. I got something in my throat here, but yeah, the new build is really you just want to focus on enhanced damage instead of those other like tertiary stats for physical, and they've also given a lot of different options. So the number one big change is you don't go fanaticism anymore. You're gonna go might. It's just the highest damage. Um, you can see 890% enhanced damage to yourself. So that's way higher than fanaticism by like about 300%. So you definitely want to run your own might aura. Um, and in doing so, you don't have to go so far down the tree, so you save a lot of points. Um, and of course, you want to get Holy Shield, so 1 point down. You want Joust, so 1 point down. And then the decision was, well, do I go Charge, or do I go Zeal, or do I go Sacrifice? Now I've tried out Sacrifice, and it does hit pretty hard. It hits the hardest out of the three. However, it's like Vengeance in the sense that you're just auto attacking like regular attacks. So it's number one, it's not very fun, and number two, it's kind of clunky and slow. So I don't recommend it. However, it we were able to max Zeal and Sacrifice to get the Zeal maximum damage. So that's what I did. So you're going to be using Zeal. And because you're going Might now, you can see that Might is a synergy for Charge. And in order to, get full Charge synergy, you just have to max Vigor. And so that's what I did. So basically, Vigor and Charge, or sorry, Charge and Zeal are equally as strong. They're maxed out in this build. So you can really alternate between the two and really do maximum physical damage. Of course, this character is level 99, so that will likely not be the case when you're playing live. So what I would recommend is to pick one of them to max first, probably Charge, and then the last thing you would max out is probably Sacrifice to get your Zeal to do more. But it's kind of really not that important. Any extra points going Holy Shield, as always. Um, in terms of this stuff here, this is not optimized. What you want is you just want as much strength as you need. You don't need any more, and you want as much dex to ensure that when you have Holy Shield on, you're at the max block chance. The way that they've reworked some of the items, not the hammer, but crystal swords will get damage bonus from both dexterity and strength now. So you can look into the patch notes for that. That's an interesting little change. The build, you can see my resistances. They're quite high. They're not perfect, but they're pretty high, and I've done that with the charms. So once again, I don't know if you saw the other videos, but I don't have all the skillers. I just have these charms to simulate the skillers. So there's 9 offensive skillers in my inventory here. That's what this empty space is. And then the leftovers are, you know, all resist charms and fire res and poison rush. So this is pretty good. It's almost maxed. It's fine. Obviously in live, you're not going to have perfect torch, so you know your resistances might be a little lower, and you might have to drop 1 skiller to get your resistances up. So that's fine. But we're looking at kind of the best gear here, so keep that in mind. That's the charms. That's it for stats. One thing I do want to touch on that I found out that I didn't know, and I've been playing this game for like 20 years, so I'll try to demonstrate it. But basically, if you notice, like as a melee player, right? Sometimes you'll go to attack, and you know you'll just miss a lot. It's not going to happen here because there's so many mobs. But essentially, what happens is that if you get put into an interruptible animation, from what I understand, so that means if you get stunned by a mob that stuns, if you block with your shield, or if you dodge if you're an Amazon or have a skill, or if you take enough damage to, I think it's 1/12 of your total health to put you in hit recovery. If any of those things happen, your next attack, melee attack, or any spell really, to be honest, according to the bug, will always miss, no matter what you do. And this is caused by a delay between the server and the client, and the way that there's a special function that runs to check. And anyway, it gets in some kind of extended loop that doesn't end, and it essentially, the server thinks that your character is in a different state than it is. So when you attack after that happens, the server doesn't count that you're able to attack, and so no matter what you do, you always miss. So you notice this only when mobs don't get one-shotted. As you can see here, like, you know, I'm killing things. Things are getting hit in one shot. I'm not taking any damage, which is another reason why it's not happening. It happens a lot when you're low level, and basically you just miss way more than you should. Now, with our attack rating, we should only miss 5% of the time, right? However, if I'm surrounded by a bunch of enemies in like a really high tier map, I will start missing quite a bit, because every time I block and every time I, you know, like I said, when that use case occurs, the character will actually just miss by default. So normally I show the you know, the strength of a build at the end, but I'm just gonna go to the cow level here really quick and just like kind of showcase this. And apparently it can happen to your mercenary as well. So it's hard to see because there's so many guys around. Essentially, if I get hit and it puts me in hit recovery, my next attack will always miss. Get hit. Yeah, that missed. And you know, apparently based on the way that the server refreshes and resyncs, and I think 9 is the resync button now. No, it's 0, but you can force resyncs. I don't know if that helps with the bug, but just be aware of it as a melee class, because you're getting hit more often than ranged classes, even though it can still happen if you're like, for instance, casting like Frozen Orb or something like that. Melee characters notice a lot more because they're attacking more often and they're getting hit more. But if you ever get surrounded, or if like you just start missing a lot, one way to mitigate it is to just like move out of combat and then move back into combat. and that will, you know, reset your. Oh, this guy's really good. That'll reset your server status or whatever it is with the loop that gets stuck. So just keep that in mind. Um, that's why when builds aren't doing like a lot of damage for melee characters and you're not one-shotting things, it feels almost like it just isn't working very well. And that's the reason, is because the longer you're in combat, when you're actually taking damage and getting into hit recovery and blocking, the more you're missing, and so your accuracy just goes down. And there's really this isn't fixed in Path of Diablo. It's not fixed in live Diablo, like the new Resurrected or whatever. And it's not fixed here, and apparently it's just too hard to fix, so it's not going to get fixed. So keep that in mind. Anytime you're playing a melee class, if you're undergeared or your build isn't like, you know, optimized or doing a lot of damage, you're going to suffer from missing a lot. Anyways, enough of that preamble. Let's get into the gear now. So the number one thing for physical damage builds is your weapon. You can see when I don't have my weapon equipped, I do about 1,000 damage. That's because I have around, you know, 1,000 enhanced damage or more. I also have these boots. I want to showcase the importance of War Travelers. When you're running a physical damage character, War Travelers are the only other option to add damage to your top, so this 15 to 25 damage. This doesn't exist on any other gear other than there's one other shield. It's like Blade Buckle or something. Let's see if I can find it. There's one shield that has it, and there's also a couple Paladin weapons that have it, like scepters. And on top of that, I believe there's this is the shield, yeah, Spike Thorn. So it adds 30 to 60 damage. But anyway, it's a super important stat. So you can see when I have everything off, or everything on except my weapon, sheet damage says 1,000. Also, for the purposes of testing, I'm going to be just wearing the Fortitude. Because the Fortitude has 200% enhanced damage, which is going to kind of mimic what my Tyrael's is doing. Obviously, Tyrael's is stronger, and it has some sockets, but ignore that for now. But yeah, problem is now I don't have the strength to hold my gloves, so never mind that. But look at this. I take my boots off. I literally lose half my damage. So what's going on there? That's because this damage range, it gets added to your actual damage before the calculation occurs with all this extra enhanced damage. So if I take off Might Aura, put on Prayer, you'll see Might Aura is accounting for 30% of my damage, basically, when I'm unarmed. But these boots alone are accounting for 1/3 of my damage as well. So these boots are the equivalent of a level 35 Might Aura. So that's insane. So War Travelers on a melee character, I don't care what other things you're wearing, never wear Gore Riders. Gore Riders are cool, and they're good for like Amazons and other builds that really need Deadly Strike and critical crushing blows. But for us, they're just not it. They're just not worth it. The amount of damage you lose is literally half your damage. So War Travelers every time, no matter what, and you can get really cheap ones that the damage range is always the same, so you don't have to worry about that. I'm using a Phoenix, so you can see Phoenix has 250 enhanced damage. That's the only reason we're using Phoenix, is because it's the highest enhanced damage shield. If you take a look at the Spike Thorn, you'll notice our damage goes up quite a bit. That's because, again, the 30 to 60 damage is, the Spike Thorn doubles our damage when you're unarmed. So that's crazy, right? And then when we have the Shapers on, it's 8,000 to 15k. And, after you've applied your weapon it becomes, the scaling from the enhanced damage is better. Now, obviously, if we look at it like this and we switch these out, you know, at this point, it's still not as good. But keep that in mind, the Bladethorn, if you can grab these before you get your Phoenix, um, you know, the Phoenix is only slightly better. That's the point I'm trying to make here. And these are free. The 30 to 60 damage range is always the same, and nobody wants this item, and it drops in it drops in hell, I think, at Nightmare. But yeah, the difference between a really basically free item and a Phoenix is outside of the all resist that you're missing, and the other utility here from Redemption Aura. In terms of damage, Bladethorn is almost the same, so keep that in mind. So, anyways, moving on. You want 2 Wisp Protectors, and the reason you want 2 of these, I've tested it with 2 Bulkathos, which would be enhanced damage. Having level 6 Spirit of the Heart of the Wolverine is just it's much better. So it's 115% enhanced damage and 88 attack rating, which is nice. But that's obviously better than 60% enhanced. It's twice as good. And you're also getting 2 dual skills, which is going to increase your might aura each time by, I think it's 25. Yeah. Take these off. We lose 1,000 damage. So just from the 2 dual skills. Again, this is end game. I would try to get these for cheap if you can. As you can see, the damage is obviously, when we don't have the Heart of the Wolverine out, the damage is kind of similar. So again, that's another budget option. But you definitely want Wisp Protectors if you're going for the endgame build. The belt, there is no other option. We need the 20% increased attack speed on the belt. And we do, in fact, want some Deadly Strike in this build. So the NOS coil is just, it's not negotiable. You need it, and it's the only source of life leech in the current build. So it's really like a centerpiece to the build. You get the mana after each kill, which really helps because we don't have any mana steal. It does give you strength, which is going to increase your damage. The life steal is essential, and the deadly strike is essential, and the attack speed is, when you're using a Schaefer's, you want 109 or at least 110. And we're at 110. The attack speed breakpoints here for the Schaefer's hammer, you can see with 1010 or 110 will be at this frame. It's not possible to get to this frame without severely gimping your build, but 2.5 attacks per second is fine. So that's the belt. The steel rends are insanely good. They give us, it's 1,000 damage. It's just because there's 80% enhanced damage there, and 20 strength it's a lot of damage. 20% crushing blow is pretty valuable because it's, it puts us near where we want to be, around half. So the steel rends are really what you want. They're just like a DPS increase overall. However, if you can't get to the attack speed cap with gemming your gear, which is going to require you to slam it, another option is of course Drax. So they have 20% increased attack speed and some life steal and some strength. So you're gonna be doing 1,000 less damage, but at least you'll be at the attack speed cap, which is what you want for sure. The armor, Tyrael's Might, is the best physical damage armor in the game. 200, and only if it's 250. If you get a Fortitude that's, higher than 200, I don't know if this tooltip's correct because I haven't seen one higher than 200, but if you can get one that's higher than 250, then you can consider wearing the Fortitude instead of the Tyraels, but the 250 to Demons and Undead is just really, really good. And on top of that, it's not a rune word, so we can put sockets in it, which is going to allow us to get more damage out of it with enhanced damage jewels. It also has cannot be frozen, so we don't have to worry about slamming that anywhere or wearing a Raven Frost. And it also has all resist. So again, like we saw here, the resistances they're quite tight. So the Tyraels is just the best. It's obviously one of the most expensive items in the game, so don't freak out if you can't get it. Fortitude's much more affordable. And I think it's called Prudence is the 2 to Paladin skill, and it's like 80. That one is a great budget option. So, but this one's simply the best. Phoenix gives us Redemption Aura, which gives us life after kills. It also gives us mana after kills. Keeps us topped up. It adds the Fireball to our attack, so when we're zealing things that are immune to physical, we can kind of chip away at them. It gives us some defense versus missile, which is actually kind of good. Life, and again, all resist because it's a Paladin shield. So Phoenix is the best shield you can get. I already talked about other options. You can get Spike Thorn. You could get a Herald of Zakrum. But the Phoenix will give you the highest damage, so keep that in mind. The amulet, best amulet, really the only option here is High Lords. It gives us the Deadly Strike based on our character level. At level 99, we'll have 49 Deadly Strikes, so I think around 30 is enough Deadly Strike nowadays, given that they've nerfed it. I wouldn't try to get to cap, and High Lords is going to be just fine. Very important also is that it gives us attack speed and 1 to all skills, so it does in fact increase our damage quite a bit. The helm is the Gulliam's face, the G face. You would want to slam 3 sockets and put as many enhanced damage jewels in this that you can get, and a mixture of attack speed ones as well to get to that breakpoint. The best weapon, now I've tested many weapons. You're really gonna have to believe me here because I was surprised, but Schaefer's Hammer, Ethereal, is the highest damage weapon in the game with scaling because it has the maximum damage based on character level. Obviously, if you're level like 80, it might not be the best. A rune word might beat it out, but it's just a lot of utility in this thing. The static field is like another version of Crushing Blow, so it's going to proc a lot and really chunk enemies' health down right away. It's got a ton of attack speed on it. It has a lot of enhanced damage. It has some lightning damage. It's got life, and because it repairs its own durability, it can be ethereal, and you get the bonus. And it has the scaling throughout the late game that is really just going to prop you up, as well as some lightning resist. So Schaefer's is just a really good hammer and weapon. It has a good range, so it works really well with charge, and it's very fast. Now you could use Death. Death is an option. However, it puts you way above the Crushing Blow cap, and it puts you basically at cap for crit. But the damage is really worse. Like 4,000 to 5,000 versus 8,000 to 16,000. It's like 1/3 the damage. So, and insanely lower. And also the attack rating that you get from this is nothing to laugh at. So yeah, Death is I don't know about that. I don't think it's a good option. Instructions for a different build. Last Wish. You'd think Last Wish. Well, the thing about Last Wish is it's got Might Aura, so it really, it doesn't really do much for us here. Again, and it has way more Crushing Blow than we need. The Magic Find's nice, but everything else about it is quite boring. The Life Tap is cool, but you're not going to really need it for mapping. So yeah, Last Wish is just not worth it. Grief is quite good. It's better than the other options, and it's also way cheaper. It only costs a low rune, and on PD2 lows are really cheap. But you can see the damage here is you know, it's still like half the Schaefer's. So, you know, I wouldn't just get the Schaefer's. Don't know what else to say. It's just so strong compared to every other option. It's just crazy. Of course, on the swap, we have Call to Arms and something to give us skills to buff it. You want offensive skillers for your Might Aura. So you can see it's 890%. If I take these out, we lose 200% damage. So I've tested this versus the Grand Charms with the max damage, and it's not better. So you want to go with the skillers because they're cheaper and they're better. So nothing there. And lastly, the Merc is very important on a physical damage build. So I went with the Blessed Aim Merc to give us more attack rating, and Pride. Concentration Aura ends up being more damage than a Beast on an Act 5 Merc, because we don't really get the Might. We have our own Might, so we're not running Might. And level 9 Fanaticism Aura is lower damage compared to a level 18 Concentration Aura. So this is just a big buff, and then the rest is just to make him survive, so that's good. And you can see our Merc damage is quite high too, because we're giving him you know, some damage from our thing as well. So this isn't our actual damage, because the auras don't activate until you get in a map. So you'll see now everything's gone up, so I'm at 17k. Let's go ahead and buff ourselves. Always want to summon your spirit and then bow it so it has a ton of health. And now you can see with all of our buffs out, for charge we're doing 14 to 25k. For zeal we're doing 10 to 20k. So in the 10 to 20k range is where you want to be for an end game build, as I've found it. That it you know, 14 to 25k is a little overkill for most things. But 10 to 20k is really strong. So let's you know, let's just see how this goes. That was the champion pack. And of course, you know, sometimes you'll be zealing instead of charging. And yeah, basically when we do hit, we're one-shotting. And yeah, you know, this is really smooth. Your survivability here, obviously when you come across immunes, it sucks, but nothing you're gonna do with that. Just go on, move on. I need a key. There's very few physical immunes. So yeah, 10 to 20k. One problem is that this thing always dies, so you do spend a lot of time resummoning it. So if you really don't want to do that, I suggest another physical. I suggest you know, don't go with the wisp, because you're gonna get pissed off if you keep resummoning it. Yeah, like because the physical damage is so high, the lifesteal we have, as long as we're attacking, we're pretty much immune to damage, which is something a lot of builds don't have. A lot of physical immunes in this map, jeez. So let me see the affixes. Something weird. Yeah, they take 536 reduced physical damage. Okay, yeah, that's a huge nerf to the build. So let me just go make a new game here, because I was wondering it wasn't doing very much damage, but that explains it. Blood Moon. Okay. Okay, this seems fine. Regular map. Alright. So one thing I did confirm with the ED2 devs is that the melee splash is just your regular attack damage. It's not the charge damage. It's not the zeal damage. But when you're zealing this 10 to 20k, it's only hitting the first target. All of the AoE is just doing your regular attack damage. Now regular attack damage is 7 to 14k. So, and now I'm attacking with just regular attacks. This is what your AoEs do. So keep that in mind. If you watch the other videos with, you know, Dragon Den or other stuff I've been doing, like this is clearing almost as fast. There's a little bit less AoE going on because there's no radial tick. It's just a melee splash. It's a little less weak, or sorry, it's a little more weak in terms of AoE damage, but the survivability is just so yeah. That's the Paladin, the best setup for DPS. 14 to 25k on charge. Oh, and one last thing. Obviously, if you can slam more sockets, your damage will just go up. So keep that in mind. All right. There.